Hey guys, welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at Road Trip Vacation 2012 that was released on the later end of 1998. This game was actually published by GT Interactive and was developed by Single Track that also developed the fantastic and well-known Twisted Metal franchise along with the Vigilante 8 games on the PlayStation. So when you go through the game, you can definitely see the familiarities of those previous games that I mentioned, because again, these guys were pretty much the go-to in terms of vehicular combat. They were the ones that were actually creating all those type of games, and you can clearly see why. The game pretty much is set in a kind of like fictional kind of future within the year 2012, and the world is in total disarray and just decay, and it's totally like an apocalyptic kind of setting, very similar to other games that are similar to it. The graphics actually are quite an improvement over some of the other games like Twisted Metal, like the earlier Twisted Metal games, and it actually does lend well to the actual gameplay style. The controls are quite similar in terms of how the game actually operates and actually plays. You're actually driving around different types of arenas, you have different types of characters with different types of vehicle sets to actually utilise, and you have different environmental obstacles and so forth to avoid, or you can use them to your advantage. As you can see here, you can do massive like jumps trying to collect weapons, items and different types of collectibles to try and give yourself an advantage. Plus you do have an array of different vehicles that you can actually use as well. In my instance with me here I'm playing like as an old kind of like ambulance or Cadillac. The reason why I picked it even for this video is because it reminds me straight away of the old Ghostbusters car, the Ecto 1, which I'm a big fan of Ghostbusters, and I just absolutely love that car, so straight away it kind of reminds me of it, so that's why I ended up picking it. I just thought it'd be a good laugh to play it with the video. The game is actually really good. If you're into these type of games, it is actually a good fit for you. Now the game actually did get decent reviews in the magazines and so forth, but it didn't get as good reviews compared to like say the original two Twisted Metal games. Twisted Metal 2 is pretty much considered to be the best vehicular combat game on the PlayStation, and I remember playing that game back in the day, and that game was just insane. It was absolutely incredible. Played that with my mates and my brothers and stuff, and we played for hours. It was just so much great fun. One of the best multiplayer games I will admit I've ever played on the PlayStation. It just was fantastic. So having played this here, it's a very similar title. There's a lot of kind of similarities in terms of even the likes of the weapon upgrades and even some of the special moves that each character can actually do. They've all got their own unique special abilities that they can utilise, but if you've played similar games like this before, you can see that they're very similar. Twisted Metal has a lot of these features. Again, the one thing that this does have is that the graphics are actually quite good compared to some of the earlier games, as I mentioned. But it feels more like a spin-off of Twisted Metal than an actual Twisted Metal game, and primarily so because it's developed by the exact same creators of those games, and even likes of Vigilante 8, as I mentioned as well, which is also another vehicular combat game. So they are very similar. I think when it comes to these type of games, if you've played one, it's kind of like with sports games, certain sports games, especially like soccer games and so forth. When you've played one, you've pretty much played them all, because there's not really much more they can do with them. They can add a few tweaks here and there and make it look pretty and so forth, but essentially the game is still the same as before. But that's not to take away that it's a bad game. This game actually does play quite easier compared to some of the previous titles that I mentioned. It actually does have a better control system. It is actually easier to drive the cars and so forth, because I remember with the earlier Twisted Metal games, some of the gripes I used to have, especially with the first game, was the fact is that the control system was a bit off in terms of how the buttons used to use. Instead of using X or square to move the car, you'd have to use up on the D-pad, and then you're having to use that alongside the actual moving left and right. Now you could change the controls, but it still didn't really influence the game all that much. It just made it very fiddly. But at least with this here, you don't have that issue. You use the actual correct buttons for the actual game itself. But it's just something to think about. But it is good fun, and I highly do recommend that you actually play it if you are into these type of games. You will have a good laugh with this. There is a good soundtrack to it, and it's more kind of fun based, more cartoony style. So yeah, definitely give it a go. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this game and what are your experiences on it. Did you enjoy it? Make sure to share them in the comments below. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be updated whenever I release future content, and also make sure to share the video, as I am going to be re-exploring a lot more of these classic style games and share my thoughts and experiences with everyone. So as always, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and keep those gaming memories alive.